A piece of blue sea, the sea washes the soil, and the unique fragrance of the sea makes the air soft. The cold sea water drifts with the waves, and the petals of violets fall with the wind, drifting into the distance with the waves. Sangxian Island, the fairy air surrounds this blessed land, with green mountains and green waters, and the singing of birds. How many people are here, where are the dreams? One side of water and soil supports one side of people, here is where fishermen live for generations. A group of children were playing on the beach, pushing sand castles, chasing and fighting, raising a handful of sea water from time to time, splashing it on the girl's face, and for a while, they became one. Barefooted, the children picked up conch shells and listened to the wonderful sound of the sea. Children's innocence, envy others. Look over there! A child exclaimed, pointing to the distance with immature little fingers. For a moment, the calm sea surface was suddenly gusty, and the sea water swept up, as if it could not pass the sky. Lightning made a miserable roar, bombarding the sea level again and again. For a moment, all kinds of fish panicked and jumped out of the water, seagulls flew around, and the birds and beasts on the island ran away. The sea water dances with the wind, which seems to be overwhelming. On the devil may cry God, the icy and bone-chilling screams pierced the ears, making one's hair stand on end. The children followed the screams and saw a huge dolphin appearing on the sea level. There was a huge hole in the dolphin's shark's fin, and the sea was stained red with blood. The sea water attracted many overlords in the sea. A young boy who was still childish and handsome, as if he had stepped out of a painting, pointed to the dolphin. The little boy's name is Ling Fei, and he is the older one among this group of children. This is the first time I have seen such a big dolphin. But it's injured, why don't you go home and tell your parents, take that dolphin back and heal her? The children agreed with Ling Fei's opinion, cheered happily, and bounced back to the village. Kids, run slowly, don't fall down. An old man was leaning on crutches, his face was full of vicissitudes, but he was not pessimistic. He picked up the youngest child and said affectionately. The children surrounded the village chief, talking with each other. Grandpa the village chief, we saw an injured dolphin when we were playing at the beach. That dolphin is really pitiful. Yeah, it's the first time I've seen a dolphin as big as half a house. After speaking, the child opened his arms and gestured. Dolphin? So big? Children, show the village chief's grandpa, shall we rescue it? The village chief smiled and suggested. Okay. Long live the village head, grandpa! The children said in unison with joy on their immature faces. The village head called the strong men nearby, and they were going to go together to check the puffer fish floating in the sea. Amidst the cheers of the children, they surrounded the village chief and trotted the village chief all the way to the beach. They were afraid, came late, and the puffer fish was eaten by sea creatures. Grandpa village chief, hey, that's the puffer fish. Ling Fei pointed to the distance with his immature little hand. I saw a puffer fish as big as half a small house floating in the sea dripping with blood. The blood, like a piece of paint, dyed the light blue sea a bright red. The patriarch was shocked, as the children said, the dolphins were really that big. The village chief hurriedly said, you guys, drive the boat and pull the dolphins up. Be careful, the dolphin is surrounded by blood, there must be a large carnivore wandering nearby. If you are attacked, leave the dolphin behind and run. The patriarch paused, turned around, took a child's little hand, and said, children, pull it up later, what if the dolphin counterattacks and hurts you? You little fellows are our Sangxian Island's hope for the future. So, hurry back to the village, lest you stay here and get hurt. You are at the entrance of the village, waiting for good news from the village chief's grandfather. The huge dolphin releases toxins and fights back before dying. No one can say that if you are not careful, you will die. The patriarch explained again, and the group of men pulled a quaint boat into the sea and rowed towards the puffer fish. I have lived for more than 30 years, and this is the first time I have seen such a big dolphin. Who says no? What a hell! Be careful, there are piranhas. The man let out a cry of surprise, thrust back suddenly, stabbed a piranha to death, and threw it into the water. It's dangerous, be careful. Everyone pays attention to the fish in their hands, for fear that if they bite suddenly, the fishing boat will capsize. Everyone walked to the puffer fish cautiously, and found that the huge dolphin had passed out due to excessive blood loss. The crowd threw the rope out, and it took a lot of effort to tie the dolphin tightly and bring it back. For a while, the entrance of the village was full of people, and they all came to see this dolphin, which was half the size of a house. This dolphin is so big, it's rare in the world. The village chief is really good at getting such a big dolphin. Accompanied by a large group of people watching, the village chief and the others pulled the dolphins to a large open space. Everyone you say, I say a word. How to deal with such a big dolphin? It's hard to catch it, so naturally we can't let it go easily. A dolphin of this size is enough to feed a whole village of us for a month. Seeing so many people suggesting to eat dolphins, the village chief waved his hand. Yu reading www.yuuganshu.com said, everyone, be quiet. Since so many people propose to eat dolphins, let's wait until the next day when the dolphins' stomachs are empty, and then kill them and eat them. The crowd dispersed, and one of the bold children held the patriarch's hand and asked, the dolphin has suffered such serious injuries and is so kind, why should it be eaten? My child, you are still young. A dolphin of this size is enough to feed a huge village for a month. In the future, you will understand that the law of survival is the law of the jungle. After saying this, the village chief left. Ling Fei couldn't bear the cute dolphin being eaten by everyone, so he went to visit the poor dolphin with his good friend Zhang Annie. Two immature children gently stroked the huge dolphin with their hands. In front of the dolphins, the two children seemed so insignificant. The poor dolphin, who suffered such a serious injury, will be eaten by the group of people in the village the next day. If only I had enough strength to save you. The two stared blankly at the dolphin, and stroked it lightly with their hands from time to time. The dolphin made a squeaking sound, as if they were calling for help. The dolphin kept looking down at the distant reef, with tears in its eyes, a gleam of hope amidst despair. Zhang Annie seemed to see something, and pointed to the distance with her finger, there seems to be something under that reef. It's shining like a light. Ling Fei followed Zhang Annie's finger and said, I'll go and have a look. Be careful, it's late at night, don't get hurt. Zhang Annie said with concern. Ling Fei followed the night light and saw the dazzling light shining under the reef. Ling Fei walked over in the dark, the sea was choppy and might submerge this place at any moment. The icy sea water submerged Ling Fei's knees. Ling Fei shivered from the cold, and walked over without caring about the cold sea water. Ah! Ling Fei screamed, and looked down, a crab pinched his toe. Enduring the pain, Ling Fei threw the crab out several meters away. Ling Fei didn't want to hurt the crab, but just threw it into the water. Run, forget about the glowing things. The sea level is rising little by little. Behind Ling Fei, Zhang Annie shouted eagerly. Ling Fei looked into the distance, the sea level, following the moonlight, accompanied the world, moving forward at a speed visible to the naked eye. It won't be long before the sea water will rise as high as a person and submerge this beach. Wait a little longer, and we will soon reveal what is under that reef. Ling Fei yelled towards the shore without looking back, and rushed towards the reef in 3 steps at a time. Regardless of the pain in the solace of the feet and the coldness of the sea water, Ling Fei's immature little hands exerted all their strength to move the rock. Ling Fei took out the small wooden stick he was carrying with him, found the right moment, saw a gap, and stuck it in. With a sudden stomp, the reef was thrown out. Without the cover of the reef, the item that was still in the bag appeared brighter, and it shone brightly with the clear sea water. The whole body of Yamingzu is tightly wrapped by seaweed, wrapping it inside. Ling Fei removed the aquatic plants with his hands, picked them up, and held an excised night pearl in his hand. There are tears in the moon and pearl in the sea, and the sun in Lanshan is warm and the jade produces smoke. The color of this luminous pearl is light purple in appearance, but the luminous light emitted at night is purple-blue, which is unpredictable. The faint purple-blue light of the night pearl makes people unable to help but appreciate its dazzling fluorescence. The dazzling luminous pearl illuminates this small world as brightly as it is daytime. Because of this, it makes people feel that there is a sense of mystery in it. What are you doing standing there, waiting for the sea to drown you? Seeing this scene, Zhang Annie yelled that she didn't want to lose a good friend because of her temporary curiosity. Ling Fei was taken aback for a moment, and then woke up suddenly when he saw the sea water was about to submerge his stomach. Unexpectedly, this bead has such a great magic power that it almost put me in a desperate situation. Come up here. Ling Fei responded. He has lived by the sea since he was a child, and he is very familiar with this sea area. Ling Fei walked up in one stride. After walking ashore, Zhang Annie hurried forward and said worriedly, "If I don't call you, you will be swallowed by the sea." Really, a luminous object, where life is important. Zhang Annie's fair face was slightly red, and she stepped forward to see if Ling Fei was injured. Is life important, or am I more important? Ling Fei asked mischievously. How could a child know that men and women love each other? There is only pure friendship between them, that's all. Of course it is. Zhang Annie hesitated for a long time. Life must be important. If you die, how can I explain to the villagers and your parents? By the way, what is that shiny thing under that reef? The two chatted for a long time. Zhang Annie suddenly remembered and asked. A night pearl. Ling Fei handed the yemingzi to Zhang Annie. Zhang Annie couldn't put it down, and said happily, I didn't expect that there is such a big yemingzi in the world. The purple is shining, so beautiful. Zhang Annie played with the yemingzi, but the fly in the ointment was that there were still water plants left on the yeming pearl. Zhang Annie threw the aquatic plants out casually and threw them aside. Coincidentally, the water grass was thrown to the injured dolphin, and the dolphin jumped forward a few steps and swallowed the water grass. The next moment, the two of them saw that the dolphin was wrapped in a little nakedness, and screamed suddenly, and the wounds on the dolphin were healing little by little at a speed visible to the naked eye. After an unknown period of time, the wound on the dolphin has completely healed. The dolphins jumped upwards, and with a click, the strong fishing nets in the village were shattered, and the dolphins broke through the nets. You, don't come here. Seeing the dolphins approaching step by step, Ling Fei took Zhang Annie's little hand and kept stepping backwards. If you are bitten by such a big dolphin, it will not feel good. Squeak! The dolphin crawled over and kowtowed to the two of them, making a creaking sound to express their gratitude. It turns out that, if you thank us. Ling Fei boldly stepped forward and touched the huge head of the dolphin. Squeak, cheep! The dolphin responded. Ling Fei stroked the dolphin and said, I'm so sorry, I wanted to save you during the day, but I didn't expect that group of people in the village to eat you. As a result, you were caught by the villagers and trapped here. But it's okay, now your injury is healed, and you are free. Ling Fei's eyes were bright. This is all right, you can go back to the ocean. You reading www.yuyuganshu.com, but you still have to be careful. If you get injured again and get caught by the villagers, it will be bad. The dolphin rubbed its head against Ling Fei, glanced at it reluctantly, then jumped into the sea and swam far away. Goodbye, dolphin. Ling Fei's eyes were slightly red, and he reluctantly said goodbye to the dolphins. Okay, don't look, the dolphin has gone far. Zhang Annie came over and sat beside Ling Fei. A flash of light flashed in Zhang Annie's mind. By the way, have you noticed that the seriously injured dolphin was cured by eating the seaweed on this luminous pearl? Thinking of the scene that happened just now, Ling Fei was shocked. It seems so. Could it be, this luminous pearl is a treasure for healing? Sure, this must be a treasure that can cure diseases and save lives. I don't know who lost it and where it left the Yeming Zoo. I think the owner of the Yeming pearl must be very sad. Zhang Annie patted Ling Fei's head and said, "You are stupid, you still think about this. With this baby, you can use it to heal when you get hurt in the future. However, don't let other people know about this matter, so as not to rob us of our treasure." Ling Fei nodded, "Okay." Zhao Yuan saw the scene where the two let the dolphins go. At night, when he saw the two of them coming to the beach, he followed them all the way, but he didn't expect to see this scene in front of him. Zhao Yuan never imagined that the perfect goddess in his mind would be with such a poor boy, alone and widowed at the beach in the middle of the night. For so many years, from the first time I saw Zhang Annie, I felt that this girl was extraordinarily dazzling. In my dreams, I wanted to marry her back home. From that moment on, he tried his best to treat Zhang Annie well, and he would take the trouble to tell her about the delicious food returned from fishing at home and the interesting things that happened around him. It's just that Zhang Annie never looked at him directly, which made him feel very depressed. From the moment Zhang Annie met Ling Fei, the two were often together, sweet and envious of others. No matter how many times he passed by them, he would feel extremely envious. Every time I think back, how wonderful it would be if he was by Zhang Annie's side. What was even more unexpected was that this cultivation resource, which was obtained with great difficulty, would be let go. Finally, let him seize this opportunity, and must punish Ling Fei well, so that he will be infamous forever. Or, let him disappear from this world, and he will not hesitate. One side of water and soil, captive one side of people. For ordinary fishermen, the creatures in the sea are their lifeblood. Every time I go out to sea, it is extremely dangerous. The sea is so mysterious and dangerous. What's more, the huge marine life in the sea will kill fishermen. Many times, he almost died in the underworld and was swallowed by the creatures in the sea. This time, getting a huge dolphin is enough for the villagers not to go fishing for 2 months. Early the next morning, Zhao Yuan spread the news about Ling Fei letting go of the dolphins. The villagers originally wanted to share the dolphins this afternoon and have a good meal. At Zhao Yuan's house, he wondered if he could increase his energy after eating. It is said that the more powerful the marine creature, the more powerful the aura of heaven and earth is contained in its body, the more opportunities it has to make mortals become immortals. Or step into the path of cultivation, live forever, ascend to the fairy world, and transcend the 6 cycles of reincarnation. The village chief thought about whether to sell the dolphin in exchange for money and go to the town to buy some cloth and daily necessities for the villagers. The dolphins are gone. Delayed the interests of the rich and powerful families, the cultivation of the practitioners, and the villagers' vision for the future. All of this is because Ling Fei let go of the dolphins and broke everyone's mind. Zhao Yuan is notoriously naughty in the village. In order to verify the truth of this matter, the village head led them to the beach in a rage. I saw broken fishing nets scattered on the messy beach, and the blood of dolphins remained. Village chief, this Ling Fei deliberately ruined everyone's fortune, you must be the master for us. It is said that if you eat a spiritual sea creature, you will be recognized by the aura of heaven and earth, and you will ascend to immortality. Now it's all right, everything is shattered. If I had known yesterday, I should have killed the dolphins, and each household would share a little. There was a lot of discussion, accusing Ling Fei. The village chief waved his hand, everyone, be quiet, don't worry, I will definitely explain this matter to everyone. The village chief led them to Ling Fei's residence in a rage. Ling Hao, come out and see your son do good deeds. Today, if you don't give us an explanation, you will be kicked out of the village. In the morning, Ling Fei's parents were also shocked by the news. They woke up Ling Fei early in the morning and asked him why he did this. Ling Fei came out, I didn't let it go, it was the dolphin that broke free from the fishing net and escaped. As soon as these words came out, the scene got out of control again. What's more, they were about to raise their fists and educate this disobedient child. It's fooling a 3-year-old child. How could a seriously injured dolphin break free from such a strong fishing net? Take us for fools. If the dolphins can break free by themselves, how could they be caught by us? Call your parents out and give us an explanation. Everyone made indiscriminate accusations and only recognized the result. They only knew that Ling Fei ruined their fortune. Ling Fei's eyes were slightly red, and a great grievance welled up in his heart, and he almost cried, it's not me. Ling Fei's parents came out of the thatched cottage and apologized to everyone. My Ling Fei, I'm sorry everyone, let the dolphins go without authorization, ruining everyone's fortune. I've already taught him a lesson, and he already knows his mistake. For the sake of being a child, please forgive him. Ling Fei's parents, on behalf of Ling Fei, bowed deeply to everyone. The son does not teach the father's fault. If an apology works, what do you want the government to do? It has ruined everyone's livelihood. How can a mere apology work? There must be a substantial contribution. This matter can't be left alone. Parents, for him, apologize to everyone under the watchful eyes of everyone. What else do they have to give up? Besides, it's really not the dolphin I let go. Why should I be blamed by thousands of people? Just based on Zhao Yuan's words, the dolphins left and turned black and white, making everyone convinced that there is still justice in this world. If meat eats the strong, the law of survival, could it be? Weak people are not worthy of living in this world, and they will rot in the coated soil and be condemned by thousands of people. Fate is unfair. As the dark wind blew, a great grievance welled up in my heart, unwillingness to resign, everyone's confusion of black and white. This scene was deeply imprinted in the child's heart, and Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com could not calm down for a long time. Ling Fei couldn't hold it back for a while, his fair face was flushed with anger, maybe it was the wind and sand that blinded his eyes, tears brushed down his cheeks, and slid to the ground. Ling Fei's father said in a low voice, let go of the dolphins, and let the food that has been lost for several months be lost even more. You can cultivate to a chance. A villager with a face full of flesh stood up and accused angrily, I can't go to sea for a few months, but because of your kid, I want everyone to go to sea. If there is any risk, it is not a matter of a few lives. Son. Well, since it's your child, if you let go of the dolphins and cause everyone to suffer losses, you will have to pay the corresponding punishment. It doesn't matter what you ask, as long as you catch 10,000 catties of fish to compensate for the loss. Ling Fei was very angry when he heard these words. It weighed 10,000 catties, enough to feed their family for several months. A 10,000 jin fish does not know how many crimes his father will suffer. In the sea, there are unknown dangers. If he is not careful, he will die in the sea. 10,000 catties, why don't you grab it? The immature voice of the child echoed in the air, and the unwilling will enveloped the entire village. Shut up! Ling Hao yelled, turned around and said indifferently, isn't it, 10,000 catties? No problem, just catch 10,000 catties of fish to make up for everyone's losses. As long as everyone can forgive Xiao Fei. Thank you, everyone, for giving the child, giving us a chance to redeem ourselves. 10,000 catties of fish is not enough, how can I make up for the opportunity to practice? Yes, if you can cultivate, you will transcend the 6 cycles of reincarnation and ascend to the fairy world. This matter cannot be done so hastily, and it cannot be simply forgotten. Ling Hao struggled a bit. He knew that only 10,000 catties of fish were not enough to compensate for the opportunity to practice. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Ling Hao knelt down with a plop. I know that the 10,000 catties of fish can't make up for everyone's mistakes, but our family is poor, and we have to survive, so we can't bring out so many things at all. Please also raise your hands high and spare the child. This matter should be used as a lesson for him. I, Ling Hao, promise that I will strictly discipline him in the future, and such things will never happen again. In the future, if there is another chance like this, I will definitely keep it and give it to everyone to make up for this mistake." Ling Fei cried until he was choked with sobs. He saw that his father's face and hands were covered with the scars of the years. Because of frequent fishing, his hands had thick calluses. Now, for him, she has to suffer such grievances. A man has gold under his knees, if not, why would his father suffer such humiliation? Ling Fei hurried forward to help but was thrown away by his father. Seeing that Ling Hao had already knelt down, the village chief stood up and stopped the villagers from continuing to condemn him. "Okay, don't scare the child, 100 caddies of fish is enough compensation." It is said that when the dolphins were released, Ling Fei was alone and had an accomplice. You confess that accomplice, and let the accomplice bear the rest of the loss. He couldn't drag Annie Zhang into this dark vortex. Zhang Annie can't be wronged with him, and her family is not rich, so how can she come up with shocking compensation? Ling Fei gritted his teeth. "Yesterday, I was the only one with no accomplices." At this time, a large family and a group of strong people came to the village. They heard that a dolphin as tall as a hill was caught in this village, and they were going to buy it at a high price. "I heard that a dolphin was caught yesterday in your village. Can you sell it to me and buy it at a high price?" An old man in the lead, with a fairy-like demeanor and a childlike face, stood up and said. Seeing everyone standing there, the old man was hesitant. He slowly raised his hand, and the immortal energy in his body was activated with both hands, and he punched out, smashing the hay-person high stone. The villagers were terrified, but the dolphins had already been released by Ling Fei. Letting this group of strong men go for nothing would definitely cause the strong men to be dissatisfied. It is said that one person offended a powerful in the past, and with a snap of his fingers, they slaughtered the entire village with 1 against 100, and no one survived. "I'm sorry, all the gods, this dolphin." Last night, Ling Fei, the child, saw the dolphin injured and felt very distressed, so he released the dolphin back to the sea privately. "If you are all gods, let Ling Fei alone bear any anger, and the others are innocent." The villagers didn't want to offend the strong man, so they blamed Ling Fei for all the crimes. The man in white said via voice transmission, "The dolphins were let go, if they can't be brought back, the suzerain will blame them, and we will all be punished. In this village, the aura of heaven and earth is extremely pure. I think there are good seedlings here. If they are brought back and cultivated a little, they will definitely become a great power. Compared to the suzerain, he will not blame us. At present, it seems that this is the only way to go." Everyone's faces were full of disappointment. The old man with white hair and a childlike face turned to the villagers and said, "Forget it, since the dolphin has been released, let's go as it pleases. This child is kind by nature, he is a good boy. I'm not a fairy, I'm just a cultivator." "God, what is a cultivator?" A bold child stood up and asked. Before he finished speaking, he was dragged back by his family's adults, for fear that if he was not careful, he would offend the gods. The old man laughed and started talking to the villagers. "Ask who in the world has no worries, only gods are at ease. Deluo Jingxian lives in Delashan, immortal, 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 and there is no sorrow in the bliss of the fairyland. Ordinary people in the world of mortals live in the realm of the earth, obeying life and death, multiplying endlessly, gaining and losing, suffering and joy, and passion. To put it simply, to go beyond the three realms, to soar between the heaven and the earth, to be immortal and immortal, is to cultivate immortality. Cultivating immortals, there are 9 realms, Wendao, Consecration, Lingzi, Rongrong, Shendong, Yuanying, Leaving Aperture, Lingxiu, and Xianling. Each realm is divided into upper, middle, and lower ranks. And only when the spiritual root reaches 50 or more can one be able to cultivate and become the legendary, Onanamillion immortal cultivator. Every time you upgrade a product, there will be a feeling of being reborn. And most people stay in the consecration period, and it can be said that every realm is extremely difficult to cross. When you reach above Xianling, you will become a fairy through the tribulation. According to historical records, Su Fu was the only one who survived the catastrophe and became a fairy, ascending to the fairy world. Then how can we cultivate ordinary people? Can they become immortals? Those words aroused everyone's yearning for cultivation beyond the 6 realms of reincarnation. Cultivating immortals can get rid of the shackles of the 6 realms of reincarnation, transcend between heaven and earth, and achieve eternal life. Longevity and long-term vision are the ultimate pursuit and yearning to be in harmony with the Tao, either to calm the mind and nourish the mind, or to cultivate the truth and enlighten the Tao. Of course you can. We came here today to buy dolphins, and more importantly, to select suitable seedlings so that children can join our sect and embark on the journey of cultivating immortals. The old man said with a kind face and a smile. As soon as these words came out, everyone exploded. Unexpectedly, the Tianwan village would let the cultivators come here to pick seedlings and embark on the journey of cultivating immortals. These things were things they had never dared to think about before. For them, they can catch fish every day and get half of the harvest. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com is a great opportunity. Immortal cultivation is unheard of, but longevity is what everyone yearns for. As the saying goes, if one person attains the Tao, the chicken and the dog ascend to heaven. As long as there is a cultivator in the village, it is enough to make them carefree for 100 years, without worrying about the invasion of foreign enemies, and have the capital to be proud. As long as the spiritual root reaches more than 50%, you can join our Wanjianzong and embark on the journey of cultivating immortals. With a radius of hundreds of miles, the Wanjianzong family dominates. How could they not hear? It is said that a handyman in the outer sect can show off his power and make a lot of money, so that the whole family will not have to worry about food and drink. And these miscellaneous workers, occasionally lucky, can also get the favor of the immortal, get a fairy medicine, and extend their lifespan for several years. And this 10,000 sword sect is the largest sect within a radius of 10 miles, and the sect master is a strong man of the 9th rank of the ablation period. As long as someone's child can enter Wanjianzong to practice, it will be a blessing from the ancestors. The whole family and even the people in a village will be proud of you. There are many people who want to practice, but those who can really practice are not gifted. These are all they don't know, they just go to see occasionally and listen to what people outside say. Then ordinary people like us, can we join Wanjianzong to practice? If you step into the road of cultivating immortals, don't be stained with the world, and transcend the 6 rounds of reincarnation in the future, wouldn't you become an immortal? The villagers said one after another that if their children were lucky enough to be able to cultivate immortality, they would become masters in the future. Even if it was spread, they would have something to be proud of. That's natural. Immortal cultivators don't care about the world, so as not to be contaminated with mortal energy and delay their cultivation. As long as you are under the age of 15, as long as you pass the test, you can practice. Can't be contaminated by the mundane world, doesn't it mean that you can't go home to visit your parents? The old man explained, not to be contaminated by mortal dust is not to be isolated from the world, but to not eat ordinary food, not to be contaminated by mortal karma and vulgarity in the body of a fairy. The villagers are confused, but if they can give their children a future, no matter what they pay, they are willing. The villagers went home to pack their things, and some even gave souvenirs to the strong man from Wanjianzong. If you can make good friends with the cultivators, you may get special care when your children join Wanjianzong in the future. The villagers moved 2 comfortable chairs for the strong, so that they can be more comfortable when reviewing. At this time, there was already a long line, most of them were adults leading children in their 14s and 15s, and some were in their 20s. There are even 30 or 40. Everyone wants to try their luck, maybe they will be selected by Wanjianzong, the future is limitless. Ling Fei was led by his father and walked to the back of the line. He also wants to try his luck, maybe he will be selected, and he will become a strong man in the future, so he won't have to be looked down upon by others, and he will have the ability to destroy all living beings. Dad, tell me, can I be chosen? Ling Fei blinked his bright eyes, feeling extremely nervous in his heart. If he hadn't been selected, he might have to stay in this small place for the rest of his life, living his whole life in a daze. Don't worry, my Xiaofei is so smart, he will definitely be selected. Even if you are not selected, it doesn't matter. After all, there is no one in 1,000 immortal cultivators. You will always be a good son in the eyes of your parents. Ling Hao gently touched Ling Fei's head with his calloused hands, but there was an unnoticed gloom in his eyes. There is a big mahogany table right in front of the village, and the strong men of Wangjianzong are sitting there, and the paper and pens for registration are placed on the table. The old man said slowly, "First of all, thank you for your love and support for my Wangjianzong. Come to my Wangjianzong to cultivate immortals. My sect promises to do its best to cultivate excellent immortal cultivators." The old man paused, and continued, "Your village is isolated from the outside world. You may not have heard of our Wangjianzong's selection ceremony. Then let me introduce the rules to you. Hold your hand out over the crystal ball. If the color of the ball is orange, congratulations, you have successfully entered the inner goal. If the color on your ball is green, then you can practice immortality, and at the same time you will go to the outer door to practice. This crystal ball is used to measure celestial roots. The so-called immortal root is the cultivation talent. Put your hand on the crystal ball, the color displayed by the crystal ball will determine your cultivation path. So the color in the crystal ball is very important. The colors of the crystal corresponding to cultivation talents from weak to strong are white, green, blue, purple, orange, red, and the legendary gold. There are 7 types in total. White is the lowest and gold is the top. According to the elders in the sect, the owner of the golden fairy root will be accompanied by visions of heaven and earth when he is born. However, the owner of the white fairy root practiced very slowly, and could not even reach the consecration, and would die in life and death. Therefore, some people would not know how to practice even after activating the crystal ball of white talent, so they might as well be ordinary people. There are also some people who can't even activate the white color, they are simply useless, just be an ordinary person or a businessman. The old man took a sip of tea and continued, "If you can't activate the crystal ball, then it's a pity, you'd better be an ordinary person." Seeing that no one spoke, the old man said, "Okay, since no one has spoken, let's start now. First, step forward. Name? Age?" The old man asked, his majestic voice resounding throughout the village. Such a loud and clear voice aroused everyone's yearning for cultivating immortals. "My name is Guanglong, 16 years old. I haven't practiced yet," said the man named Guanglong. Well, put your hands on this crystal ball." Guanglong touched his head and asked, "Is it this sphere in front of me?" "You know what to ask, put your hands on it quickly," the old man said impatiently. Guanglong put his hand on the crystal ball. After a while, there was no reaction on the crystal ball. Guanglong said unhappily, "What the is this thing, it must be broken." As he spoke, he patted the crystal ball with his hands. The old man was even more displeased, "Presumptuous, you dare to question our crystal ball." The old man went on to say, "The crystal ball doesn't light up, which means you don't even have white talent. Goodbye." Next, the old man said loudly. This Guanglong is a well-known old lion in the village. With all kinds of expectations, he wanted to join Wangjianzong and start his journey of cultivating immortals. When he was about to show off his grand plans, he was slapped severely by reality. "Since I can't join the Burning Field sect, then I won't leave." Guanglong sat down directly on the ground, holding the legs of the table with both hands. "If you don't leave, I will drive you away. Don't go. Guanglong held onto the table tightly and spoke recklessly. Oh? You're not leaving, are you? The old man unleashed coercion, making everyone present tremble. The majestic immortal energy was revealed, and everyone present was shocked, and their hearts were full of fear. They all know that if the strong want to, reading www.yuyuganshu.com put Guanglong to death, I am afraid that everyone present will not be able to save him. Go, I'll go. Guanglong quickly stood up, and ran away in a hurry. This Guanglong must have done bad things a lot, and was caught doing bad things, otherwise how could he run so fast? Next. The old man's voice sounded again. Name, age. Go up, don't be afraid. Cultivating immortals is an opportunity for us to change our fate, we must seize it. Whether successful or not, you are a good boy in the eyes of your parents, and we will always love you. Ling Hao touched Ling Fei's head and said softly. In fact, he is much more nervous than Ling Fei. If his child embarks on the journey of cultivating immortality, the future will be limitless. The most important thing is that you don't have to guard this small fishing village all your life. In the future, you can see the prosperity of the outside world. Ling Fei nodded obediently. Okay, then I'll go. Grandpa, hello, my name is Ling Fei, and I am 15 years old this year. Ling Fei said obediently. Okay, put your hands on the crystal ball and feel the subtle changes. Kids, don't be nervous, or the test will be inaccurate. The previous majesty was gone, the old man smiled faintly, looking at Ling Fei's trembling legs. It was the first time I saw a child who was so nervous in the test. Okay, okay. Ling Fei said excitedly, and then put his hand on the crystal ball, feeling the subtle changes. The warm and soft feeling came from the crystal ball, and I felt extra comfortable. There are dots of white light in the crystal ball, and they are intertwined. Could this be my talent? A warm and tingling force passed into the body from the soles of the feet, making Ling Fei's small body tremble slightly. Immediately afterwards, he only felt his whole body trembling slightly like an electric shock. Everything in front of him suddenly became blurred, and images kept flickering in his mind. He wanted to see clearly, but he could only feel the flow of light and shadow. It seems that I saw it, but I can't remember anything. Ling Fei screamed suddenly, which frightened the old man. Normally, a teenager wouldn't feel too much when he awakened his talent. Nor will it be incapable of taking damage because of its fragility. But this ceremony can't be stopped, otherwise it will hurt Ling Fei's soul. The old man didn't care whether Ling Fei could hear him or not, and said softly, Kid, hold on, don't take your hands away, you must hold on, the ceremony will be over soon. The old man looked forward, and he was surprised to find that there seemed to be a golden pattern flickering in the crystal ball, and then the golden pattern spread and intertwined around like a net. The old man burst into ecstasy. Could this be the golden talent? It must be, although he has never seen it, but only the golden talent can have this golden pattern. This really wants to revive my Wangjian zone. The more the old man thought about it, the more excited he became, so naturally he didn't dare to neglect it. Then the golden pattern became weaker, and the next moment it retreated from the crystal ball into Ling Fei's body. A majestic energy was released from Ling Fei's body, and the crystal ball shone with dazzling white light. The old man has a sense of loss, isn't he a golden talent? How could it degenerate into white, still dazzling white? Ling Fei opened his eyes with difficulty, and said in surprise, I seem to be able to practice. The old man was disappointed but said happily, Congratulations, kid, you can officially join my Wangjian zone to practice. Cultivating immortals means that they will ascend in the daytime and become immortals immediately. In the future, they will shine on the lintel of the family and become the pride of their parents. Ling Fei said excitedly, Really? What is my talent color? Yes, it's white. The spiritual roots are not fully developed, and you can only reach 50, so you can barely cultivate. Ah! How could it be that it was only white? Ling Fei had always imagined that his talent was orange. I didn't expect it to be the worst white. Sensing Ling Fei's displeasure, the old man said softly, actually, white talent is also good. Don't you think there are many people who can't practice? At least you can practice. Ling Fei said seriously, isn't the white talent only able to be cultivated to consecration? Isn't it even impossible for some white talents to practice immortality? Well, the old man was a little embarrassed, but children nowadays are really not easy to cheat. The old man continued, talent can't determine everything. If you want to cultivate into a strong man, then work hard. Now Ling Fei is very happy after being enlightened by the old man. Yes, what's wrong with white? I can still practice, I can still become a strong man. Well, I will work hard. Ling Fei said confidently. Ling Fei stepped aside, and his father asked, how is it, did you pass the test? Ling Fei's fair face was flushed, and he said proudly, that's natural. From now on, I can become a cultivator who can traverse the world. Only. Ling Hao noticed a trace of disappointment in Ling Fei's eyes, and asked, what's wrong? It's just white talent, barely enough to cultivate. Ling Fei said disappointedly. According to the strong man of Wanjian Zone, it is better for a white talent to go home and be an ordinary person with peace of mind. If such a weak talent embarks on the journey of cultivating immortals, the road ahead will be bumpy, and what's more, they will die in the hands of Tianji without even reaching the consecration. Even if he achieves consecration, with his white talent, he can only live at the bottom of the immortal cultivators and become a slave. Instead of this, it's better to go back to the fishing village. At least, you can eat and drink without worrying about the intrigue of cultivators. Ling Hao rubbed Ling Fei's head, and comforted, it's okay, what's wrong with white, at least, it can be cultivated. Children, remember, innate hard work is better than all talents. From now on, don't indulge in fantasy, don't let others disturb you, and practice hard. Eat the hardships that others can't bear, endure the anger that others can't bear, and pay more than others, so that you can enjoy more than others. Ling Fei nodded obediently, don't worry, Dad, I will continue to work hard. Although I am not as good as others in terms of talent, I will do my best. Only. Ling Hao knew Ling Fei's worry, so he lied calmly, do you know? It is said that hundreds of years ago, a great power who ascended to the fairy world was a white talent, but through acquired efforts, his talent evolved to a golden talent. In the end, hang and beat everyone, across the world. Ling Fei blinked his eyes, then they lit up, really, you have never left the village, so you must be lying to me, right? Seeing that his lies were exposed by a 9-year-old child, Ling Hao scratched his head in embarrassment. With firm eyes, Ling Hao said forcefully, of course it's true, how can adults lie to children? This great ability, Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com is passed down from our ancestors in our village, this cannot be fake. Okay, I understand, I will work hard. I want to be like that mighty one. I want to rule the world and be a powerful one. At least, I won't be bullied. A child's nature is so pure and innocent, no matter what others say, he will believe it, and then make 100-fold effort. Ling Hao said with relief, you are still young, so you don't have to push yourself too hard. No matter how talented you are, at home, your parents will always be your safe haven. Ling Fei said impatiently, okay, I get it, anyway, it's over with hard work. After talking so much, I'm hungry. Ling Fei rubbed his rumbling stomach. Okay, I'll take you home for dinner. The long queue for testing Xiaoxian Road is still waiting. It didn't end until very late. It is said that the highest spiritual route, which has grown to 70%, was directly accepted into the inner sect. And Zhang Annie was naturally selected, her spiritual route developed, 63%. The night, like an extremely wide curtain, was quietly opened, and the blue sky was dotted with countless small stars twinkling and twinkling. The mirror-like moon hangs in the sky, pouring light as clear as running water onto the vast land. It was getting late. In order to develop 60% of Zhao Yuan's spiritual roots, he would enter the Wanjian sect in the future, and there was a follow-up. Zhao Yuan's family began to want to get close to the strong family, so they naturally provided them with a place to stay, and bought a large table of delicious food, as well as a bottle of aged wine. During the day, you were wronged. Zhang Annie looked up at the starry sky, blinking her big eyes. It's okay, it's a merit for the dolphins to return to the sea. I didn't expect that we ordinary people can also get in touch with cultivating immortals. It feels like everything is like a dream. When you become an immortal cultivator, you will be able to protect your loved ones and relatives, and you won't have to suffer anymore. It's just. Ling Fei remembered that his spiritual root was only 50, and the stars in his eyes dimmed instantly. Zhang Annie comforted, what's the matter at 50, many people can't cultivate, just past the threshold of cultivating immortals, it means that you have the qualifications to become immortals. Talent is just the words of the strong, but hard work is what we ordinary people should do. After some comfort, Ling Fei's mood improved a lot. Ling Fei patted the dirt on his buttocks, stood up, if there is no group of gods today, there would be no future for us. Let's go and thank them together. Zhang Annie nodded, wow. The two brought some marine life from home, as well as the land property of their hometown, to thank those strong people. Zhao Yuan's family is wealthy, and he lives in a vacant lot in the distance, building a small villa with animals kept in captivity on the periphery and inside a fence. In the woods, gusts of cold wind blow through with the sound of crows and sparrows. On a branch, a man in a black cloak sat on it with a weed in his mouth. The man glanced lightly, as if he had discovered something serious, his eyes lit up immediately. In this small place, there will be an owner with golden talent, what a shame. The man leaped forward, jumped down, and blocked the way of the two of them. Little brother, you are really a rare talent in cultivating immortals once in 100 years. Once you embark on the journey of cultivating immortals, you will definitely have the opportunity to ascend in the daytime and enter the realm of the gods in the future. Little brother, why bother living in a fishing village? Why don't you go back with me, cultivate immortality and become a saint? Ling Fei cast a glance at the man. He believed that Wang Jianzong's crystal ball would never lie to him. The person in front of him was dressed like a liar, blocking the way, saying something like, I think you are a rare martial arts talent once in 100 years. I have a set of sunflower book here, and I will sell it to you at a low price. Ling Fei pulled Zhang Annie, and said softly, don't worry about this liar, let's go. The two bypassed the man and continued to walk forward. Unexpectedly, the next moment, a man appeared in front of them, blocking the way. The man chuckled, little brother, don't rush to refuse, I'm not a liar. The man looked at the two of them up and down, a gentle force came from Ling Fei, and the majestic immortal energy rushed out, making people very refreshing. Could this be the legendary sea god orb? The man muttered in a low voice, and after confirming again and again, he said, little brother, you are indeed an immortal cultivator. You have been carrying the sea god orb since you were a child, and it contains infinite power, which makes you different from ordinary people. It is said that the sea god orb was transformed from the sea god's tears, and it contained infinite power, causing many strong people to die for it. Carrying it on the body, it will be subtly transformed by the sea god's power, purifying the stale air in the body. If one appears at a top auction on the mainland, it will attract countless people to scramble for it and spend a lot of money. Both of them thought it was nonsense. Ling Fei carried this bead himself, and his physical strength has always been very strong, because he usually does fishing habitually, but he doesn't feel tired at all. This little trick of yours was left over by others. If I were really a genius in cultivation, how could I show that my spiritual roots are infinitely developed under Wang Jianzong's crystal ball, and only activate white waste? Wang Jianzong's crystal ball is a recognized method on the mainland to test the spiritual root. How can the test be wrong if the spiritual root is 50? The man was puzzled. It shouldn't be. The pure fairy energy emanating from that child is definitely a golden talent. Once you step into the journey of cultivating immortals, the future is limitless. With a wave of the man's hand, the powerful immortal energy in his body was released, and the whole space seemed to condense in the next moment. The scattered leaves in the woods were dancing with the wind. The next moment, Ling Fei's body was wrapped with a little light, and a bright bead flew out of Ling Fei's body and landed in the man's hand. This bead was a night pearl picked up by the beach that day. They knew that this bead contained pure healing power, so they did not tell others. Ling Fei didn't know that this thing was called the Sea God bead, and its function was not important, but maybe the bead could be used to save people in the future. Now, it is easy to be robbed by others. Facing such a powerful enemy, Ling Fei dare not act rashly. Ling Fei took a step forward. This bead is handed down from my ancestors, can you return it to me? The man laughed loudly. I didn't expect that the Sea God orb, which was regarded as a treasure by countless people and almost lost their lives, would be obtained by me so easily. Could it be this seat's chance? The man chuckled. It's not safe to put this bead in your place, it will bring you death. It's better to let me keep it for you, and I will give it to you when you need it. The weak prey on the strong. Can the strong bully ordinary people unscrupulously? Ling Fei almost died, and the yemingzi he got from under the reef was just like that. Snatched by others? Zhang Annie pulled Ling Fei, and whispered in her ear, forget it, it's just a bead, don't worry about it, don't lose your life because of it. But how existent is he, why can't he hear the whispers of the two? Hey, you're lucky, you little girlfriend, you really care about you. It's not. Zhang Annie's fair little face flushed slightly, she glanced at Ling Fei, and turned her head away. You misunderstood, we are just friends. On the other side, Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com, the strong man living in Zhao Yuan's house, felt a strong aura, and rushed over in a hurry. In the woods, only a little bit of breath remained, and there was no sign of it. This guy is really lingering. He actually followed us all the way here. The old man with white hair and childlike face stroked his slender beard and said lightly. It doesn't matter, but with the character of killing gods, if one is not good, the whole village will be slaughtered. I'm worried that the villagers will be in danger. The old man sighed, and stood with his hands behind his back. Notify me, and send more people to watch the night tonight, so as not to make mistakes. The man played with his heart together, tearing through the void with his powerful palm force, and slapped out with a slap. There was a red palm print on Ling Fei's face. Boy, how about we make a bet? Zhang Annie stood up and stood in front of Ling Fei. You, how could you do this? Go away, you have nothing to do here. He was slapped for no reason, and a sense of grievance welled up in his heart. Boy, if you win, your girlfriend is still yours. If you lose, your girlfriend will belong to us. The man dodged, came to Zhang Annie, pulled her over, and held her hostage. Let her go. In Ling Fei's eyes, a murderous intent flashed across. Looking at the man standing casually in front of him, Ling Fei sneered, and slowly clenched his fists. The faint immortal energy quickly circulated in his body, bringing waves of strong power. Ling Fei stepped on the ground suddenly with his feet, and rushed towards the man who was close at hand. Hey, young man, you are courageous. Over the years, you are the first mortal who dares to attack me. Under the rush, the man's palms were slightly bent, and the sharp nails of his 10 fingers were glowing faintly. Under this huge impact without warning, Ling Fei's complexion changed, as if he had been hit by a heavy hammer. After retreating more than 10 steps, he stopped in a bit of embarrassment. Ling Fei panted heavily. If he had been caught by a man just now, he would definitely be torn to pieces in front of the huge impact. The gap between a mortal and a cultivator is really huge. With an understatement, the other party blasted him several meters away. Ling Fei glanced at the man lightly, then lowered his eyes to look at his palms. You are not my opponent, why not? Let's continue the game just now. The man smiled slightly, looking at Ling Fei who looked like a little beast in front of him. Let Zhang Annie go, I will play with you. Looking at such an arrogant man, Ling Fei's face trembled slightly, he gritted his teeth suddenly, mixed with a little anger, and rushed towards the man again. I'm going, come back. Not bad, fierce, worthy of being a genius with golden talent, the unyielding wool flowing in his bones is enviable. Seeing Ling Fei clenched his fist again, the man subconsciously grasped the ground tightly. Before the suction came, another wave of immortal force threw it forward. The body drew a beautiful arc in midair, and hit the ground straight. Ling Fei looked at the man who was getting closer and closer to him, and his face burst into a smile. The faint immortal energy in his body ran wildly in his body, and instantly condensed on his fist. Punch me! With a loud shout, Ling Fei clenched his fist violently, and a sharp roar sounded in midair, and then he smashed at the man's head. Boom! The two fists faced each other in midair, and there was a little silence. Ling Fei's ferocious face suddenly turned pale, and blood continued to flow from the corner of his mouth. His face was pale, and his body made a crackling sound in an instant. The man threw his fist forward, like a gust of wind sweeping fallen leaves, and hit Ling Fei's leg directly. The man dodged, came to Ling Fei, stepped on his chest lightly, and smiled playfully. Ling Fei closed his eyes tightly, is he really going to die here today? Not reconciled. Before stepping into the journey of cultivating immortals, before seeing the prosperity of this vast world, he was about to be beaten to death. Fate made a big joke with him. The man let go of Ling Fei who was stepping on him, and smiled contemptuously, how dare you attack me with this little skill? Ling Fei panted heavily, if we have the same level of cultivation, we will never know who will win. Using the big to bully the small is nothing. The man waved his hand, and a huge black iron cage wrapped Zhang Annie in it. In the void, a black iron door appeared, exuding a strong yin energy, and the man locked Zhang Annie in with a big wave of his hand. The man flew straight up, stepped on the void, and said calmly, if you want to save your little girlfriend, then we will complete our bet, and then return her to you unscathed. You need to use this map to pass through the room, just save her. Good luck, boy. With that said, a map floated down and landed in Ling Fei's hands. Looking up, the man had already disappeared. Ling Fei muttered to himself, Zhang Annie is not my girlfriend, but I will do everything to save her, even if it costs my life. This incident made Ling Fei more determined in his journey of cultivating immortality. Not only for immortality, but also for the future, to be able to protect the person in my heart, instead of being powerless like now. The man just now was like a god, making people powerless. The difference in strength is like a big mountain, and the people who are crushed can't breathe. If I have enough ability, so I won't let that mysterious person take Zhang Annie away, let alone play this game. Now, without any kung fu practice, he didn't even open the door to cultivating immortals, how to practice. The room in front of him exuded a majestic yin qi, and there seemed to be 100 ghosts neighing inside. The unknown dangers and monsters inside made Ling Fei timid. Unarmed, how to rescue Zhang Annie? If you are not careful, you will die in the room. Ling Fei closed his eyes tightly, recalling every bit of what happened between him and Zhang Annie. This lovely girl always patiently listens to his concerns and pleases him. Always encourage and accompany him when he is most difficult. Recalling these, Ling Fei resolutely stepped into the room for Zhang Annie without the slightest hesitation or fear. The room was as dark as ink, and the cold atmosphere made people feel creepy. From time to time, there is a foul smell, which is disgusting. How is this going to be without lights? When Ling Fei opened his eyes again, the room was filled with torches, and everything inside could be seen very clearly. Inside, it was covered with a pile of weeds, paved all over the floor, and from time to time, you could see piles of dead bones piled up in the distance. Ling Fei turned his head away, unwilling to see the pile of dead bones. The next moment, several goblins appeared in front of Ling Fei. With long pointed ears, hooked nose, and goldfish eyes, he is greedy, cunning, and good at deception. They mainly live in the dark and deep underground world, and have a unique order and system of action. Although their education level is not high and their combat capabilities are relatively weak, they will make up for it with large groups of actions. Goblins are extremely interested in food that favors meat and shiny things. Especially rare and valuable items such as gold coins and diamonds are particularly valued. Occasionally picks wild fruits, but does not actively grow crops. The food source is mainly hunting and plundering. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com. How could there be such a terrifying existence of goblins in this small room? How could there be such a terrifying existence as a goblin in this small dim room? Ling Fei backed away again and again, feeling that there was no terrifying aura on the goblin, and no immortal energy flowing through his body. Could it be that these goblins have degenerated after staying in the room for a long time? The goblin's scarlet eyes were shining, as if he had found his prey. He was approaching Ling Fei little by little with a sickle and a sword in his hand. I'm going, this is the rhythm of eating people. Ling Fei couldn't help but swear, and looked at the goblin with eyes, as if he hadn't seen a stranger in a few years, and wanted to swallow Ling Fei alive. If anyone offends me, he will be punished. Ling Fei picked up the branches scattered on the ground, and picked up a thicker piece of wood. Ling Fei let out a soft drink, dodged to the side of the goblin, suddenly raised the wooden stick in his hand, and threw it at the goblin's head. The goblin turned into a black shadow and disappeared in place. A breeze blew past and came behind Ling Fei. Facing the sudden attack, Ling Fei was stunned, and before he had time to think, Ling Fei twisted his body, clenched the stick in his hand, and stared at the goblin. Ling Fei stepped out suddenly, and with the push of the wall, he flew out suddenly. With a solemn face, he suddenly raised the wooden stick in his hand and smashed it out. With a scream, goblin died. Ling Fei breathed a sigh of relief, and saw that the goblin had turned into a cloud of black mist after his death. Half a moment later, the fog cleared, and a long blue sword was scattered on the ground. As a reward, Ling Fei picked up the long sword and continued to walk forward. In front of him, a girl was tied to the ground. The girl was wearing a long purple dress, her long hair was hanging down her head, and her big bright pink eyes twinkled, making her look extraordinarily beautiful. Ling Fei stepped forward and rescued the girl. Who are you? Where's Zhang Annie? Didn't she be brought to this room by a mysterious person, and you only need to complete the task to rescue her? Ling Fei was stunned. Where was Zhang Annie taken by that mysterious man? You mean the girl brought back by the devil? Don't worry, she is safe, she was taken to another room by the devil. Oh, by the way, my name is Celia, thank you for saving me. Celia patted the sand on her body and thanked her. It's not too late, let's go to the next room and save Zhang Annie. Ling Fei didn't want to waste too much talk, and if he wasted another quarter of an hour here, Zhang Annie would be in more danger. He didn't know what the man called the Demon King was going to do. Okay, go out the front door and you're there. Celia continued, you are a very good cultivator, but you don't seem to want to practice very much. Ling Fei sighed, indeed, my talent is too poor, my spiritual roots are 50% developed, and I can't meet the requirements of cultivation at all. Celia continued, you can't compete with fate, but you can become a qualified immortal cultivator through acquired efforts. Ling Fei sighed, his eyes full of bewilderment, I hope. The two chatted all the way, and then came to the second room. The furnishings are the same as the first room, except that there is a throwing goblin and a cowardly goblin. Looking from a distance, Ling Fei saw that Zhang Annie was locked in a cage. Don't worry, I will rescue you after I kill these goblins. Ling Fei yelled angrily, holding a tree branch he had picked up from nowhere in his hand. Fu Ling's heart was in his heart. It seemed that various sword skills flashed through his mind, and the next moment, Ling Fei used it subconsciously. The sword technique flashed in my mind. 3 strikes, 5 divisions, and 2 divisions. The immature goblin in front was killed by Ling Fei, and the throwing goblin in the back was also easily dealt with. Suddenly, there was only an explosion, and the goblin walked out of the smoke and dust holding a 3-foot-long sword in his hand. This is 1. Commander. The 10 commanders' swords turned into shadows, and with a long roar, they flew towards Ling Fei. With a tearing sound, the sword shadow shattered, and Ling Fei flew backwards. Ling Fei inserted the branch in his hand into the ground, half-kneeled on the ground, resisting his body not to fall down. Ling Fei spat out a mouthful of thick black blood. He knew that if he fell down at this moment, not only would he not be able to save Zhang Annie, but he would also risk his life. Ling Fei stood up, waved the branches in his hands again and again, and phantoms flew out like springs. Overwhelming and majestic. These phantoms rushed towards one place. The phantoms fused together in the next instant, turning into a sword orb more than 10 feet high. Stopped in midair. Let's stop here. Following Ling Fei's shout, the sword flew towards the goblin aggressively. The sword chi was like a blade, cutting on the goblin's body, but the goblin didn't feel the slightest pain, because at this moment Ling Fei fell into a state of epiphany, and played 10 times and 100 times higher than himself. Strength. In an instant, the temperature around Ling Fei dropped 100 times, and a bit of cold air condensed into an illusory sword. Holding the giant sword in his hand, Ling Fei felt the huge power in his body at this moment, and locked his target on the goblin commander. At this time, the goblin was already trembling with fright, but it couldn't change its ending. After Ling Fei swung the long sword in his hand forcefully, the goblin was directly crushed into powder. After the air wave subsided, how could there be goblins in place? Celia on the side was stunned and praised repeatedly, I can't tell, you are still a swordsman, and you beat the mighty goblin to the ground with a few moves. Ling Fei scratched his head in embarrassment, I'm not a swordsman, but I just have a feeling that I can defeat it. I have never touched a sword since I was a child. This is the first time I use swordsmanship. I may not be proficient in it. I almost died. Celia was shocked, and killed the goblin casually. This was the first time she used swordsmanship. How terrifying is this person's talent? After chatting for a while, Ling Fei ran over and rescued Zhang Annie. Zhang Annie looked at the little blood on Ling Fei's body, and said distressedly, you have suffered, even if you want to save me, you don't need to work so hard. You are so stupid, you were almost wiped out by goblins just now. Ling Fei smiled, it's my fault that caused you to be arrested, and you have to suffer. As long as I can rescue you and protect the loved ones around me, this little pain is nothing. While the three were chatting, applause rang out in the room. Several powerhouses came out of the void, and said with relief, it seems that Lord Sea God told us that there are powerhouses coming soon. Ling Fei found out that the strong men had changed their rogue attitude before, and looked polite, greetings, my lords. I don't know how to arrange this. The old man spoke first and laughed loudly, that's right, this time is just a test for you. Since I saw you for the first time, your kindness, sympathy for the weak, and the indomitable spirit that spread in your bones are admirable. You have successfully passed the test. The old man paused, and continued, Ling Fei, you are a very good practitioner, you need to guard this continent, just like you guard your girlfriend. Guard the mainland. The old man nodded affirmatively, Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. That's right. Before the light of civilization on the continent of Arad shone, the world was a boundless universe that bred various forms of life. These beings are scattered in various void worlds and underground castles, using their diligence and wisdom to create the prosperity of the world. In various empty worlds, there is an object called water of life, which can make the recipient have infinite life. The appearance of the water of life has aroused the competition of life in different worlds. A battle of destruction that changed the color of the world and caused heavy casualties. Blood stained the land of the demons red. However, 1,000 years later, a sudden change plunged the originally peaceful continent of Arad into a storm again. A plague-like mutation transformed the animals and plants on the continent of Arad into evil monsters overnight. They were ferocious and bloodthirsty, devouring human life wantonly, and death and panic quickly spread across the continent of Arad. Then a fire fell like a meteor in Gran's forest. The raging flames burned most of the vegetation in Gran's forest, and the elves disappeared from the forest completely. Mutations frequently appear all over the continent of Arad, and the mutated animals and plants are becoming more and more crazy. What is even more worrying is that the Lost Sky City has reappeared on the continent of Arad. With its appearance, all kinds of evil forces are ready to move. The Black Plague enveloped the human village, and all the people in the village died, and no one was spared. The Dark Elves took advantage of the chaos to launch a war against the human beings, imperial occupation. The chaos caused by the mutation spread across the continent of Arad, and the reappearance of various voids and alien worlds plunged the whole world into madness. So, we need a warrior to emerge to save the world. You are the one chosen by heaven. Son, the future of the mainland is in your hands. When Ling Fei heard these words, he immediately felt that he had a heavy mission on his shoulders. But Ling Fei paused, and told them everything that had happened in the past few days. Ling Fei said, how his family was misunderstood by the villagers, and how it was fought openly and secretly in the village. He can't even solve these things, let alone the difficult task of saving the world. The strong man told him that you have to learn to deal with the things around you first, then deal with the things in the village, and then deal with the things in the mainland. Step by step, everything has a process. Zhang Annie at the side glanced at Ling Fei and said, Brother Ling Fei, I hope you can do what they said. Not only for this continent, but also for our own future. A group of people talked one after another, giving Ling Fei great encouragement, and the originally lost heart gradually burned. Ling Fei asked, then, have I completed the task this time? The powerhouses all praised, of course, you saved the person you wanted to save very well, including everyone you want to save in the future. This time the task was completed very well. I killed the goblin with a snap of my fingers and successfully rescued your girlfriend. With the strong man's affirmation, Ling Fei asked, then what should I do next? The strong continued, the outskirts of this forest are called Lorraine. There is a treasure in the depths of Lorraine. Although it is not suitable for you to use, you can take its treasure back in exchange for something useful to you. Ling Fei said worriedly, but Annie. It was not safe here, and he was worried about leaving her here alone. The strong men thought for a while and said, you will bring her with you this time. First, you can exercise your mind and practice quickly. Second, in Lorraine, you can take care of each other. Ling Fei worried for a while, and said firmly, no, it's too dangerous there, you can't take her with you. A girl is outside, unarmed and easily injured. Zhang Annie hid behind Ling Fei, and said worriedly, I'm afraid that I will drag brother Ling Fei down. After listening to the strong men's descriptions, they already knew how dangerous the depths of Lulan were. If Zhang Annie followed, Ling Fei would have to be distracted to protect Zhang Annie, so he would not be able to concentrate on dealing with the monster. Zhang Annie was unarmed and followed Accelerator. If there were too many enemies, Ling Fei would be too busy to protect Zhang Annie. If she was injured, how should she explain to her family? The strong said firmly, no, this is your common task. If Zhang Annie doesn't go with her, she will be killed on the spot to avoid future troubles. The majestic immortal energy suddenly appeared on the strong men, and their murderous eyes scanned Zhang Annie. Zhang Annie said softly, "Ling Fei, just take me with you, we will go to Lorraine together, so that we can take care of each other. It's only you there, I don't worry, take me with you, so you can have someone to talk with you to relieve boredom. Don't worry, I won't hold you back." Looking at Zhang Annie's firm eyes, Ling Fei sighed helplessly, "Okay, but you have to listen to me in everything, so you can deal with emergencies." "No problem." Zhang Annie agreed. After saying goodbye to the strong men, Ling Fei took Zhang Annie to Lorraine. A strong cold wind passed over the treetops, and the forest that had slept all night immediately woke up from its sound sleep, and then they quarreled with each other. The scenery in the dense fog is still unclear, only the dewdrops on the nearby branches and leaves can be seen, and there are only hazy silhouettes left in the distance, intertwined in chaos. Looking up, the sky seems to be covered with a layer of veil, the morning light is faint, and everything is silent, as if time stands still here. A bird's song suddenly came from nowhere. This piercing clear cry woke up the world, the forest suddenly became noisy, and birds from all directions also joined in the harmony. Everything seems so peaceful, but the crisis hidden in the dark is even more terrifying. It's eerily quiet here. The forest was peaceful, and there was a faint sound of birdsong in the distance. It was this peace that made the originally eerie forest even more terrifying. "It's okay, I'm here, don't be afraid, I will protect you." Ling Fei took Zhang Annie's little hand and comforted her. "Well, I believe in you." Zhang Annie looked at Ling Fei with firm eyes. Walking along the way, the two came to the depths of the forest. Not far away, there was a huge explosion, and a throwing goblin came out, blocking Ling Fei's way. Behind the throwing goblin, followed by a large group of goblins. Ling Fei patted Zhang Annie behind him, and said softly, "Be careful, follow me." The next moment, the unknown goblin had a knife in his hand. This knife exudes a powerful breath, which is suffocating. The goblin moved, and came to Ling Fei's side in a flash, with a strong killing intent in the knife. Suddenly a huge ball of fire emerged from the knife, throwing towards Ling Fei fiercely. Looking at the scene in front of him, Ling Fei naturally didn't dodge, but planned to resist the damage. Reading www.yuyuganshu.com. He believes in his own strength, and even more in the sword in his hand. Ling Fei put the long sword in his hand across his chest, and the fireball collided with the long sword in his hand, rubbing out huge sparks. Clang clang clang! The next moment, a big pit appeared where Ling Fei was standing. There are still a few small flames that have not been extinguished in the pit. And Ling Fei half knelt in the pit, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Zhang Annie felt that she stepped forward and hugged Ling Fei, her eyes were slightly red, and tears rolled in her eyes. "Seeing you hurt, but I can't do anything, I'm so useless. If I hadn't come with you just now, brother Ling Fei would have defeated those goblins." Zhang Annie knew that Ling Fei had every chance to dodge the fireball and defeat the goblins. But he didn't choose to step back half a point, because Zhang Annie was standing behind Ling Fei. Before he set off, he swore that even if he was covered in bruises, if he risked his life, Zhang Annie would not be harmed in the slightest. "Don't talk about yourself like that, it's because my cultivation is not in place, but I want to resist the fireball. If my cultivation base is more advanced, I don't need you to come and take risks together. Why are you crying?" Tears are streaming down, crying like a big tabby cat, it's not good. Zhang Annie smiled through tears, and wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. "Well, I won't cry." When the two were chatting, a large group of goblins had already surrounded them, exuding evil spirits, raising their weapons high, ready to attack the two at any time. Zhang Annie hugged Ling Fei in her arms, stepped back again and again, and threatened Goblin with words, "You, don't come here. Brother Ling Fei, don't worry, I won't let you get hurt again, I will protect you."